A massive winter storm will be coming to the United States this weekend, and this is going to bring some huge problems, including the risk for heavy snowfall, which will end up leading to feet of snow in some areas. Also, this winter storm is going to bring an ice storm, which will bring the threat for some significant ice accumulation across several states. And lastly, we are going to be talking about why this January will likely be the coldest in years across much of the United States. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 10 to 14 days. And we'll begin with what's happening across the country this morning, which for many of us this morning, things are actually pretty quiet. Right now, we have a big clearing here across the Great Plains, the Southeast, and back through the Midwest with only a little bit of cloud cover and overall no big disturbances. But one big disturbance that we are watching is back over here near New England. And this is actually now moving up into New England and will eventually turn into Canada. And the problem with this system is that it is about to bring a ton of snowfall near Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, and even some other areas like Michigan are going to see a ton of snowfall over the next 24 to 48 hours. Parts of New England as well will also be talking about the threat for some significant snow to begin the new year. And then back over on the West Coast, things continue to stay active over here, which is pretty typical for January. We're continuing to see a lot of rainfall over there and also some snowfall in the higher elevations. And then eventually, as we go later into this week, a storm system will break off from all these atmospheric river events, and that's what's going to cause our next big winter storm in the United States. Now, before we go into this big winter storm, I do want to talk about something that's actually after that, and that is the risk of heavy snowfall according to the Climate Prediction Center between January 8th and January 14th. And so if you're back down in areas like Texas or even back over into the Dixie Alley, there's actually a chance you could see some snowfall. Right now, the Climate Prediction Center thinks between January 8th and 10th, there is a slight risk for some heavy snowfall there. And same thing goes all the way back through the Northeast and also into the Ohio Valley, and then also back over near the Great Lakes region, a moderate risk for heavy snowfall, reason being the lake effect snow events back over there. But again, this does not include the big winter storm that we are expecting this weekend, which will be Sunday into Monday. So definitely interesting stuff here. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you posted with the latest on this because it could get a little interesting even as we go into next week. Now let's talk all about the snow that's going to be coming to the United States over the next couple of weeks, including this big winter storm, beginning with what's happening over the next 48 hours. So again, this little system that's just offshore of New England is actually going to be bringing some light, moderate, and even at times heavy snowfall from areas like Ohio back into northern New England. And this is going to continue all the way into tomorrow morning before eventually moving more to the north. But what this is going to allow for is a northwesterly and westerly wind, which is going to promote two different things. The first of which is that Arctic air is going to start to usher out of Canada. This is not going to be the coldest weather that we'll see all month, but there will definitely be some frigid weather. Now, as we go into Friday into Saturday, the biggest thing that we're going to be watching for out of this low pressure system will actually be the lake effect snow, which is going to be primarily focused near Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, where we could end up seeing some feet of snow in several areas, because look how this lake effect snow will literally continue probably all the way until Sunday. So it's going to be a pretty long lasting lake effect snow event. Now, here's where things get really crazy is as we go into Sunday, we are expecting the formation of a big time winter storm in the Central Plains. Now, this is the starting point. This isn't the only area that's going to see this, but what we're going to see Sunday morning is the beginning essentially of some heavy rainfall in areas like Oklahoma and Texas. Heavy snowfall is going to ramp up more than likely in Missouri, Iowa, and Nebraska, and then ice is also going to be possible right in the middle of that. Think of it as a sandwich. Instead, though, we're putting ice in the middle of this sandwich and then snow on the top of the sandwich and also on the bottom of the sandwich being rain. It's a very interesting sandwich, I gotta say. Eventually, as we go later into Sunday, we are going to be talking about a big time winter storm with lots of snowfall falling across several states. And notice how there's dark blue here. That indicates that we're going to be talking about heavy snowfall across areas like Kansas, Illinois, Iowa, and as well as parts of Missouri, where freezing rain will also again be right in the middle of that. And there will also likely be a threat here for some severe weather on the southern side of this particular storm system as we go into Sunday and as well as into early Monday. Eventually, as we go into early Monday, this moves to the east. Heavy snowfall is blanketing several different states, anywhere from Wisconsin back into areas like West Virginia by Monday morning. Ice is going to be possible in areas like Kentucky, Tennessee, perhaps even North Carolina, and even Illinois. And then eventually, as we go into later Monday, this eventually moves over the Appalachian Mountains, where there will be the potential for some freezing rain and also some sleet and snow in areas like North Carolina, Virginia, and South Carolina. And then eventually, this is starting to move offshore as we go into Wednesday of next week. And then beyond Wednesday of next week, we are likely going to see some more snowfall across a large chunk of the country. country. The GFS model actually indicating snow all the way from Texas and Louisiana all the way back through areas like Wisconsin, which if the GFS model is correct on how cold it's going to get, this is definitely going to be possible. But here's the thing, this is over 7 days from now, and snow forecasting 7 days out is pretty difficult, and even 5 days out it can be difficult. So definitely take this with a grain of salt for now. And then beyond that, we could see several more little winter weather events here in the United States before the middle of January is here. So definitely going to be interesting stuff there. Now, obviously, the chance here for a winter storm is likely. We are expecting a winter storm almost undoubtedly at this point. The question remains, where is the heaviest snowfall going to fall? How much snow is everybody going to see? And how much ice are you going to see? And where will that ice fall? Well, here's the probabilities from the GEFS ensemble members in terms of the probability of greater than 4 inches of snowfall in a 24-hour period, Sunday into Monday. And notice that the probabilities right now are on the rise. Actually, yesterday, a lot of these areas were between 20 to 30%. Now we're starting to climb into the 50 to 60% range of seeing greater than 4 inches of snowfall accumulation in areas like Illinois and as well as back over in Missouri. And then also back over to the east, we are still seeing those probabilities starting to climb. Now, you might think these numbers are pretty low, and you might be thinking, are we only going to see 4 inches of snowfall? No, we're actually going to see a lot of snowfall, more than 4 inches in a lot of areas. In terms of freezing rain accumulation, the probabilities are increasing, especially in southeast Missouri and southwestern Illinois, where we are expecting the threat for some freezing rain, which could lead again to some significant ice accumulation. Elsewhere, the probabilities again are still definitely on the rise, and these probabilities will continue to rise as confidence starts to increase on where we're going to see all this ice and snow accumulation. Now, if we look at the GFS model in terms of total snowfall accumulation, again, take this with a grain of salt for now. In tomorrow's video, we're going to go more into detail, I think, on the winter storm threat and also how much snow you're going to see, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We are still a few days out, so there will be some changes to the forecast here, but as of right now, there's a high likelihood that we are going to have maybe even a widespread area picking up over a foot of snowfall, and that might end up being in northern Missouri and as well as central southern parts of Illinois and even back into parts of Indiana. But it does look like we are seeing some significant snowfall out of this, and again, these purple pink areas here are where we're expecting over 6 to 12 inches of snowfall, and again, some spots could be as high as 24 inches of snowfall. The European model is pretty similar overall to the GFS. It's not really that different anymore, indicating a very significant snow event. It doesn't go as crazy on the maximum snowfall accumulation, but still get some areas upwards of 18 to 20 inches of snowfall. So again, this is going to be a big time snowstorm. The biggest question right now is who is exactly going to see snow and also where the heaviest snowfall is going to fall. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We'll keep you posted with the latest on everything that you need to know about this winter storm. Now, in terms of ice accumulation, this is the GFS model indicating that there could be very significant ice accumulation, especially back over in Missouri and as well as back into Illinois. It's actually indicating over half an inch of ice accumulation in some areas, which would mean that significant power outages would be in play. Now, again, I'm not saying this area will see that, but at this point, the winter storm threat here is definitely increasing, especially for areas like Missouri and Illinois. The European model, on the other hand, also has a very similar story, the ice accumulation being the most significant from Kansas back into areas like Virginia, and this area will definitely be interesting to watch, I think, back over near the Appalachian Mountains in terms of ice accumulation. Now, the temperatures are a completely different story and really are going to be a big factor here over the next couple of weeks, and why we're going to be seeing so much different snow events, and also why we're going to be seeing these big winter storms, because we are about to see the coldest weather that we've seen in years for the beginning of January. So this is the GFS model indicating really over the next couple of days that we are going to get our first shot of big cold air across areas like the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, the Midwest, and as well as back through the Ohio Valley. But where things get really crazy is as we go into next week. We are expecting several shots of cold air across the United States being transported from the Arctic, which is going to lead to several Arctic blasts that will also bring the potential for record-breaking temperatures in parts of the United States. Notice even as we go into Friday and Saturday, which is around January 10th and the 11th, we are going to be talking about some very frigid weather and the potential for very below average temperatures. There could be some areas 40 to 50 degrees below average in the United States by the time we go into next Friday and next Saturday. And then beyond this, right now the GFS model is not showing any signs of letting up in terms of this Arctic air even into the middle of January. So we could be talking about a prolonged amount of cold air here in the United States that is below average. Now, in terms of how below average the temperatures could get, the GFS model on the most recent run is indicating right around January 11th, which is about 11 days from now, so things could definitely change here. It is indicating that we could see some areas in a widespread area, in fact, between 30 to 50 degrees below average in areas like the Ohio Valley, as well as back into areas like the Central Plains. So this is definitely going to be something to watch watch for. Even in areas like the southeast where we have crops there, like citrus, for example, there's definitely a threat there because of how cold the temperatures could get. We could have some areas in Florida in the 20s, perhaps even sometime around the middle of January. Now, in terms of how cold it's actually going to get, this is the minimum temperature across the United States simulated over the next couple of weeks. And notice by the time we get closer to January 10th and the 11th, there could be a huge area talking about sub-zero temperatures from the northern plains even back into areas like the northeast. And also, we could even see some spots as low as 20 to 25 degrees below zero for actual temperatures, which would again be record-breaking, especially for areas like Missouri. So this is going to get pretty crazy, I think, as we get closer to the middle of January. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We'll keep you posted with the latest, and also make sure to click the bell icon so you're notified with the latest updates. And we may even have a live stream for that winter storm coming up Sunday into Monday, so definitely make sure you're staying tuned to the channel, and we'll see you guys all again in the next weather forecast.